make a choice about what this talk is going to be. I gave a version of this talk 2 days ago at my first quick, and it turned out to be a long, so we need to decide what to cut out from what I had planned to do. So here's some things that I promise you I will do. I will solve a Rubik's Cube for you. I will show you some videos. Actually, I think I wrote something in the outline at the bottom. Videos that look fake but aren't. So I promise you I will show you some of those. But now we have to decide what else we want to do, so don't look at all that stuff. Let me just tell you. We can either talk about solution methods and kind of get into the details about how one might go about solving the Rubik's Cube, which is a very difficult puzzle. And we can talk about some of the fun media stuff. Or we can talk more about the mathematics of the puzzle and talk about the difficult problem of counting how many different ways there are to scramble this puzzle, and also talk about a recent result. Within the last year, there has been a famous open problem about Rubik's Cube math that was just solved. So one of them, the second thing I said, is much more math heavy than the first one. So do we have a sense? There's the kind of, you know, so I'm not a fan of you know, just vote for your first place choice and that's it. But when there's only two choices, it doesn't much matter how you count the votes. So there's the math heavy and the math light. Raise your hand for math light. Raise your hand if you prefer.
Which is how to solve it.
Yeah, kind of how to solve. Yeah. Raise your hand if
math light has a negative connotation to it. How about how to solve the puzzle?
How to solve it?
I always
Well, you're allowed to take a second vote.
I'm sorry, just so that they can have their vote math heavy. All right. Afterwards, we can talk about math heavy. All right. Anybody wants to see math
good.
heavy?
That's good.
Talk afterwards. Yes. Very well done. All right. Okay, so there's the kind of outline that we won't follow. I met the Cube back in the 80s when the Cube came out, and pretty much everybody had one. I could get one face and no more. Every time I got one face and tried to do more, I messed up the one face that I already had. So my solution was to peel the stickers off and put them back on where they belong. In 2003, I don't know how, but I stumbled on a website that claimed to have a method, a procedure that you could follow to solve the Rubik's Cube. And this was stunning to me because I thought to solve the cube you had to be a genius, and there was no method that you could follow. But this was almost like a recipe in a cookbook with pictures and a step-by-step process. And I said, I think I can do that. I didn't have a cube, so I went and I bought one. And I sat there with this website, and an hour and a half later, I was stunned that I had a solved Rubik's Cube in my hands. So what did I do? Right after that?
Did it again.
I mixed it up again. Hour and 45 minutes, another solved Rubik's Cube in my hand. I've gotten faster. My first tournament was in 2003. It was the World Championships. And then since then, it's been a relatively healthy addiction. Although, I guess I'd have to say, I'm no longer addicted. There was a time where I was addicted. My name is Ian, and I've solved the Rubik's Cube. But it's no longer an addiction. It's just something that I kind of do because I can do it. So I don't know what's happening with the video, but we'll just push through. Yes. Okay. There is Erno Rubik staring at you. He invented the cube back in 1974. He is a retired architect and professor of architecture. He's alive and well, living in his home country of Hungary, and he's quite rich, so no fears. According to Wikipedia, he made the thing to see if he could get some kind of a structure that was independent and some mechanism that would keep this thing all together. I don't know how much faith I put in this. His actual purpose immediately followed the preceding sentence, which is what the Wikipedia entry used to say his reason for making the cube was, which was different than this one here. So at this moment in time, this is the Wikipedia reason for the cube. The cube made its international debut in 1980, 3 years after it was released in Hungary. And if you were alive back then you remember this clearly. Everybody had a cube, and so the popularity exploded. And probably just as quickly as it exploded, it disappeared, and it was gone. And I think that it's returned largely due to the internet. We had all these pockets of people around the world who could solve it by themselves, but then the internet has kind of brought these folks together and brought in people like me who I never would have seen a solution had it not been for the web. So it's back. A little bit more, some facts, I guess, about the cube. We're going to jump right down here. Does anybody remember a cartoon about the Rubik's Cube back in the 80s? Nobody. That's shocking. So here was the cartoon.
This I've never seen. I thought I saw all of it.
I love the E.T. Love the E.T. So anyway, this was a short-lived cartoon. Maybe 17 episodes longer than it needed to be, but anyway, it was jumped on the popularity back then. I just learned recently that the song there was performed by Menudo, another 80s phenom that disappeared. So lots of appearances of the Rubik's Cube in pop culture currently, much more recently than that. You'll see it in The Simpsons, you'll see it in The Big Bang Theory. It actually played a very pivotal role in the Will Smith movie, The Pursuit of Happiness. It was not just this kind of side thing, it was actually a metaphor. The character that he played had a large drive to kind of pick up the pieces of his life, which had fallen apart. And he learned how to solve the Rubik's Cube back in the 80s, again, using that same kind of drive. So if you haven't checked it out, check it out. And Will Smith actually learned how to solve the cube in order to accurately portray this part in that movie. So now we'll talk a little bit about solution methods. So first we need a definition for an algorithm, so a loose definition. An algorithm is just something that will accomplish a goal, just a process that will accomplish a goal. And the reason that we need to talk about those is that the Rubik's Cube, to get from scrambled to solved, is a problem that is way too big to really just kind of tackle all in one shot. So what do we do as mathematicians, and what do we tell our students to do when they have a problem that's too hard?
Make simpler problems.
Make simpler problems, sub-problems, stack them all together, and maybe you can build your way up to the hard puzzle. So here's the first mathy type word, and that's commutator. So let's make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so does anybody know what a commutator is?
No.
Daniel?
Well, I assume it moves, or exchanges two pieces.
Okay, so we are going to apply a commutator to exchange two pieces. In group theory terms, does anybody remember the notation for a commutator? That's okay. So a commutator is something of the form x, y, x inverse, y inverse. I'll say it again. X, y, x inverse, y inverse. For example, this morning you put on your socks, that's x. You put on your shoes, that's y. Tonight before you go to bed, x inverse.
Take off your socks.
Take off your socks. Y inverse.
Take off your shoes.
Take off your shoes. Commutators do not work very well for putting your shoes on and socks off. But they work really well for other things like the Rubik's Cube. Okay? So, let's take a look at this cube here in the middle. So ignore the other two. And we're going to spin this guy around and just give you a sense of what's happening. Mostly it's solved. There are not that many things that are wrong with it. You might say there are 3 things wrong here. But if you understand a little bit about the physics of the cube, that's really one corner piece with 3 stickers on it. So you can't look at it as 3 separate problems. That's one piece. And that one piece just needs to rotate a little bit. It's in the right spot, but it needs to rotate. Back over here, same problem. That guy is where it needs to be. It just needs to rotate. So, looking at it, let's see, we get the green on top. Clockwise or counterclockwise? Which way does that corner piece need to rotate to be solved? Counterclockwise. Anti-clockwise for our British friends. Jump back to this guy. Clockwise or counterclockwise? Clockwise. So it is clockwise. It is no coincidence that they are in opposite directions. If we had done the math-heavy side, we would have understood why that was not a coincidence, but see in the after class if you'd like. Here's the goal. The goal, first goal, is to get that green sticker face up. That is, rotate that corner piece that we are staring at right here counterclockwise. while not doing anything else to the top layer. Get this corner piece solved. Rotate it counterclockwise. Don't do anything else to the top layer. I couldn't care less about the bottom 2 layers, so there's freedom. All right, this is going to be accomplished in 6 moves. I'll do it once. You'll see the end result. We'll look at it again, and we'll know what we're looking for. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 2 goals have been met. This corner piece is now rotated correctly. The top layer, nothing else was affected. The bottom 2 layers, not looking so good at the moment. Let me just put it back so you can have a sense that actually doing these 6 moves with a little bit of practice is attainable. Now that we know what we're looking for. We're just going to focus on that one green sticker that's in the wrong spot. It is right here. The greens need to be up here at the top, but they're going to be hidden for just a moment. So just follow that one green sticker. First move, green sticker is down here, temporarily messing up some green things that were good before. We got to fix that. Second move, green sticker sits over here. These guys are still waiting to get fixed. They're going to get fixed right now. Put them back up. The other green sticker we've been watching is now here. Okay, that green sticker is now over here. We brought down 2 other green things that we didn't want to mess up. What are we going to do with this green sticker? We're going to swing it right around next to its friends, and then finally throw them all back there, and everybody's happy. You remember the commutator form? X, Y, X inverse, Y inverse. That whole thing was X. Now we're going to do Y. Y is a lot simpler. That's Y. All we did was turn the top twice. Okay? Now, think very carefully about what X did. It took the corner that was sitting in this spot, and it rotated it counterclockwise. It did nothing else on top, totally screwed up the bottom 2 layers. Then we did Y, which just turned the top a little bit. Now we're going to do X inverse. It's going to do the opposite of whatever X did. X took this corner and rotated it counterclockwise. What will X inverse do to that corner? Rotate it clockwise. What will X inverse do to the bottom 2 layers of mess that we have? We're going to fix them. Because that Y turn that we did in the middle didn't touch the bottom. So the bottom is still messed up in exactly the same way it was messed up before. So X inverse is going to fix it. Now, how do you know how to do the opposite of those 6 moves? Well, if you're really trying to solve this, if you're really trying to figure out how to solve the Rubik's Cube on your own, you develop some notation, make some notes for yourself, and you can figure out how to undo the 6 moves in backwards order, right? So here are those 6 moves, opposite direction, backwards order. There they are. Why is the cube not solved? We have to do the Y inverse, the last part. And Y inverse is just turning the top down. Alright, so then you might ask yourself, how do you get to this kind of miraculous position where you've got everything solved except for 2 pieces? Well, you do things like we just did. You see now that you have the ability to affect very few pieces on the cube. So whether it looks almost solved or completely scrambled, what we just did will only affect 2 little pieces here. So if you kind of 2 at a time fix some pieces that are in this big mess of a cube, you can work your way to a point where it looks like it's very close, and then finish it off doing the same kind of thing. So this idea of commutators, very, very powerful. Any questions on that? Oh, I should have said questions are welcome at any time.
What was the website that you found first of all? You said
I have no idea what website I originally stumbled on. The method that I learned in the beginning was terrible, so I would not send you there. I'll give you a couple of places to go if you want a place to go. All right. Okay, so good. So if you feel like solving the Rubik's Cube with no external sources, then commutators are the way to go. This is an understandable way to figure out how to solve the Rubik's Cube. If you want some more help, there are some good beginner's methods out there. You can YouTube Tyson Mao or Google Jasmine Lee. The first link for each of those things, both good. And that will give you some more procedural type things, less mathy thinking and more just kind of follow this recipe. Very easy to follow, not a lot of memorization required. This PowerPoint is in the shared folder under my last name, so the links are all there if you want them. Alright, so, and some people say that I cheated in that I looked up how to solve the Rubik's Cube and I didn't figure it out. And I say, well, you know, I'm quite pleased with how much calculus I know. I looked that up too. I did not rediscover that. And I don't feel badly about looking up how to solve the cube. So you can decide which way you think is better for you. Alright, so now we'll talk about what if you want to solve the cube fast. Because if you do commutators, easy to understand, kind of take a lot of moves to do a little stuff.